Hi there, this video is going to get you comfortable with something called perfect square trinomials. And one main reason why we do these kinds of things that we're about to do is so that we can do another step, and I'll make it another video, where we call it completing the square. And this video is better to watch first, just so that you're comfortable with a perfect square trinomial to begin with. So let's focus on this. Now, a trinomial is a polynomial with three terms, and over here you can see there's only two terms. So it seems kind of strange. Why do we have x plus 5 squared right here? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to expand this to see what it's like, and there's a quick way to expand this, and that's the first thing I want you to know. However, we're going to do it the slow way so that we can see the quick way in a little bit. So start by writing, when you see a squared here, what that really means is x plus 5 multiplied by x plus 5 again. So we put it in brackets, and if you remember how to multiply this all out, again, have a video on that, but if you remember from that other video, you just multiply the two first terms, then you do the first and the last term, which would be 5x. Then you multiply the inside terms, and then you multiply the last two terms, which is 5 times 5 is 25. So I'm assuming you know how to do all this stuff. These two things here are called like terms. We're going to put those together, and we're going to get x squared plus 10x plus 25. And here we are. We were able to get this. This is a trinomial, and we were able to get this based on what we saw up here by writing it twice. So if we had to come up with a quick way to do this, all you have to do, if you want to do a quick way, I'll put it in green, all you do is you take the square of the first and the last terms, so x squared, and then the square of 5, so 5 squared, sorry, the square of 5 squared is 25, there we go. And the middle term, here's how you get the middle term. Okay, what you do is you take this term here, take the sign that you see right here, so if it's a plus sign, then put a plus sign here, and double it, and then put the variables that you see. So if you see an x here, then put an x there. If you happen to have a y right here beside the 5, you'd put 10xy. But we just see an x in here, so we just write 10x. And it's a positive 25 in the end. So that is the quick way to do it if you have a situation where you have to do this quickly without wanting to multiply it all out. You can just follow these steps. Okay? Now what if you had to go backwards? What if you had to take this? What if you had to take this and factor it? Go back to this. There's a quick way to do that. A perfect square trinomial, in order to recognize it, it'll have the first and the last term will be a perfect square, which they are, okay? The perfect square of 25 is 5, and x squared is x, okay? And if you were to take the square root of 25, you would get 5, and if you doubled it, you would get 10. So this is indeed a perfect square trinomial. If you want to factor it really quickly, all you do is take the square root of the first term, square root of the last term. Look at the sign in front of the middle term. It's a plus sign. And put your little squared symbol right here, and you're done. Okay? So that's how fast you can go from a trinomial called a perfect square to this right here, the factored form. Okay? Let's try this with a new question. Now, once again, let's, should we do the quick way? We might as well. So remember, we square the first and the last terms. So it would be 2x squared is 4x squared. Okay, if we were to square this, and if we squared the last term, negative 3 times negative 3, we would get 9. So in order to get the middle term, what we have to do here is be very careful. Normally, we would just take this number right here and double it to put it right here. But when you have a value right here in front of x, the a value, you actually multiply these together. So 2 times 3 would be 6, and then double that. So don't just double the 3 like we did in the last question. Go 2 times 3 and double it. So that would give us 12. And take the sign that is already here. So we have a minus sign. And 12 would go right here. Okay? And if we had to factor this thing, if we had to go back to this again, the way we would do that is you'd take the square root of the first and the last term, and you would take the sign right here. You'd take the square root of the last term, and you would square it. And if you were to multiply this all out the slow way, see what I'm doing? If you were to multiply this all out, you would get this. 2x times negative 3 is negative 6x. 3 times 2 is, again, negative 6x. And then over here we have negative 3 times negative 3. And you group these terms right here. You group them up. So our final answer here would be 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. And that is exactly what we got right here. It's just this was way quicker to just do what we did here. Okay? So if you get a question like this, I'll get a blue pen here, or a red pen. If these were perfect square trinomials, what would the middle term be? Well, remember the middle term of the trinomial, let's go back here. The middle term of the trinomial, take the square root of the last term, which is 3, and double it. Okay? So take the square root of this, so square root of 36 is 6, and then double it, and you would get 6. And don't forget the variable of x. Okay? Over here, the square root of 49 is 7, but then double it. Whoops, I forgot to double the last one. I hope you caught me. There we are. The square root of 36 is 6, and then you have to double it, so you get 12x. I almost went on without realizing I made that mistake, and I have no students in front of me to say, hey, stop it. Get back there. Okay, square root of 49 is 7. Double that, 14x. The square root of 121 is 11, and double 11, you get 22x. If these were perfect square trinomials, what would the last term be? Okay, they've given us the middle term. What would this last term be? Well, remember, take half of this, so half of 12 is 6, and then square it. So half of 12 is 6, and square it. You get 36. Keep going. Half of 18, or half of negative 18 even, is negative 9. But when you square negative 9, you get 81. Okay? It's always going to be positive. These last numbers are always going to be positive. Here we go. Ooh, this one's a little tougher. Half of 5, well, let's do that right here. 5 over 2. Half of that, or 5 divided by 2, is just 5 over 2, or you could say 2.5, but I'm going to keep it in a fraction form here. So then square it, and you get 25 over 4. That one's not as pretty to look at, probably more unusual. All right? Okay, in order to get the last term here, remember this one's trickier than the other ones because we have a 4 here in the front. Notice the other ones we just had an invisible 1 each time. If you have a 4 here in the front, what we have to do to get this last term is you start by looking at the middle term and you say, what's half of 12? And if you look, the half of 12 is 6. Take the square root of 4. That means 2 times whatever we decide to go right here. 2 times whatever we decide to go right here has to equal 6. Well, 2 times 3 makes 6 if you multiply those two together. And so therefore the last term would be the square of 3, this last term of 3. So 3 squared would give us 9. And that would be the last term that we were looking for here. These kind here are trickier than the other kind, and I'm not sure if you'll be getting this kind, but I just wanted to show you in case you have been getting them. Okay, thank you.